Thank you so much for speaking to us, Prem, this morning on the LITE Breakfast. As you know, this whole week we're on a property prowl. So let's get your opinion on the property landscape in this time of pandemic.
Hi guys, thank you for having me here today. The property market, right? It's kind of closely tied up to the economy of the country, or to the world to a certain extent itself. And like any other economic segment, the property market is cyclical. It's kind of like a cycle. You've heard about the property clock. A lot of people always ask me, where are we at the clock? How long are we going to be there? So if you look at it, right, in the sense of the landscape, right, the sense of like GDP, we all know it's dropped, right? Whereas overhang, of properties, it's about 49,000 in the Q1 to 2020, but it has been reducing. Sales volume, based on NAPIC's Q1 report, it's down. Construction output is also down, and prices are beginning to drop. Based on iProperty's asking price, we got the listing, we got the asking price.
Yeah.
As of last month, the prices are down by 3.5%.
Okay.
If you look at this, right, these are all indicators that we are at the 6 o'clock of the clock, at 6, which is at the bottom of the market, We have been heading towards this bottom since 2013. From 2013, everything has been, there was a nice little raise from 2010 to 2013 was fantastic. It was the peak. 2013 onwards, it started going down, and it's been going down since then. The only thing is, the other question people ask is, how long are we going to be in this position, like before we start moving up? So this is the part which I can't answer. I mean, it's very unpredictable, right? It really depends on a lot of the things which the government does, and I think the current situation we are in today, if you're at the 6 o'clock, it's considered a buyer's market because you got a lot of supply and prices are going down. And then at the same time, you get the government coming up with incentives to stimulate the market, with all the, I don't want to bring through all that, which I think we all know that, right? And with those attractive packages by developers, right? If someone has that ability today, it's one of those times to look for a property, and if you're an investor, it's also a good time to look into investment grade products, because if rental is holding in some of these places and prices are dropping, you tend to get better yields, because you're buying it cheaper, So I think this is where we are in a nutshell today.
All right. Now, based on your data from iproperty.com.my, is property renting or buying picking up at this point? Now that we're in RMCO?
Yeah. Actually, in the last 6 months, we have been looking into rental a lot, because the simple answer to that is yes. It's picking up. It's been picking up since actually 2018 and 2019. We have already seen a lot of searches. So if you say 100%, right, of people coming to iProperty, right, to look for properties, 52% of them are coming in to look for rent. For rent, so it's a big number. In 2017 was about 48%, but now in 2019 is 52%, and the number is growing. If you look at the search growth, right, year on year, 2019, the search for rent grew by 30%. While the search for sale grew by 8%. So you can see that rent is growing much more than for sale itself. And when we did the consumer sentiment survey also, we survey people who come to the website, right? About nearly 50+%, very similar to the data, the visit data, about nearly 56% say they're going for rent, about 44% is for sale. So
why though? That means they don't have enough money to buy, property has gone up in price, or they just sentiment based where I don't know whether the market has bottomed out, I'm still waiting for the prices to drop further?
Right, okay. So actually we did another consumer sentiment survey on why do you want to go for rent, So we asked questions like, what is the reason from stopping you from buying a property? So you got things like, oh, it's cheaper to rent, it's waiting for interest rates to decrease, but all those answers, 74% of people responded the reason is because I can't find a property that I can afford in the location that I desire. That's it. That I mean, it's a big number. The second, of course, 46% said insufficient income to cover mortgage. But I just kind of like took that as the theme, everybody wants to rent in. I mean, want to buy in. Just an example. I'm not saying, like say Mont Kiara, or I don't want to say KL City Center, right? But I can't afford it, but I can rent it. So that's the main reason.
Right.
It's true, actually. Like, because the places that you want to live in, you might not be able to afford it. So, but you can afford
Yes,
renting in that area.
yes, correct.
That's
And
me right there.
yeah, there was a second question we asked, okay, so what is really the motivation to rent as well? Like, why is it that you still want to stay in that place, even though you can't afford it? Why don't you just buy in Semenyih or Kajang? It's cheaper, bigger unit some more, and all that. What is your motivation? And the biggest motivation, which is 38% of them actually gave this answer, is to be closer to work or to school.
Yep.
That was one of the main reasons. A very close second is a change in life, in a life stage. I'm a student. Now it's my first job. It's my first job. Now I've just got married. I'm staying closer to my wife. So there's a certain level of life stage, which also prompts them to still continue to rent before I decide to marry or something like that.
How big a deal is public transportation though? Because sometimes I always wonder whether if an MRT station has been built near a particular area, where do the prices go up?
Oh, yes. So I would say that, the prices in these areas in the last 5 years has not grown, because they grew when the announcement came out that the LRT station is coming up,
Right.
which was 10 years ago. But the day the train started running, it never really pushed, it never really pushed the price. But the prices there started moving the moment I hear, oh, in 4 years' time, the station is coming there.
Right.
From now to then, so I give you examples, right? Like SS15 in Subang, huge hub, you got colleges, you got shops, malls, and then you got the station in there, right? You got units in there, which has been stagnant for the last 5 years in the sense of pricing. But when it comes to rental, it's amazing. I mean, you can buy something for like a studio for 400,000, and you can rent it for 2,000, 1,008 to 2,000 ringgit, because you're 200 meters away from the station, 200 meters away from the station. So these are the places where, and if your tenant leaves, right, I can tell you the next day there's a new tenant coming in. so when investors always talk about, where should I buy and all that, right? The answer we always give is like, find places where tenancy is not an issue. Yield, yes, yield aside, but you also want to make sure it's not vacant, like for 6 months or 5 months, So to answer your question, JD, on the sense of public transportation, right? It's a huge role in the sense of keeping the area stable. So when there's a bust in economy, like say, for example, today, there's a kind of a crash,
right?
Places like this they actually hold the price, they actually hold the rent. Whereas other places where they become distressed, rentals start dropping because no one wants to go. But places where you got transportation hub, you got food, you got things, they don't go up, but at the same time, they don't go down drastically at the same time.
Right.
Now, let's talk about real estate agents. Being a real estate agent during the MCO, I mean, it must have dealt a massive blow to their jobs, right? Viewings were not permitted. Like, how did real estate agents continue on with their work during MCO?
Yeah, so okay, for the first 7 weeks of MCO, I think not only I think all of us were impacted, and they were actually quite drastically impacted as well. But what was surprising, like, so we were thinking, what indicator can we use to gauge that market? So what I did was I used new listings being posted on a daily basis as one indicator, and inquiries coming in from consumers on a daily basis. So the first thing is, inquiries, so inquiries on the first week of announcement, March 18, March 16, they announced, right?
Yeah.
That week, right, we dropped about nearly 40% in inquiries.
Ooh.
And the new listings, which were posting, also dropped by 60%. So agents were not posting, inquiries dropped. But the key message here, right, it dropped 40%, but there were inquiries coming in. There were inquiries still coming in, and we asked the agents, why were they still people contacting you? Because there was no viewing, right, and all that. But people were still, because they couldn't view, they still were interested, because sentiment was very strong. Because there was one more indicator which I wanted to share with you all, which was searches, the number of people who are actually searching. Now, if I look at that number, right, let me just, searches dropped by 46% on the first week. But every week after that, it started picking up. It was just down for a week, but people were stuck at home. So, what else can they do? Look at all the bungalow, look at all the swimming pool, look at all the pictures.
I wish I was stuck there, right?
yeah. But searches to us is just sentiment. It doesn't translate to to transactions.
Purchase. Yeah.
People are just searching. Enquiries gives me a better indicator that, are people actually interested? So when I asked the agents, why are people sending enquiries when they can't go and see the unit? And they said it was because the reason they couldn't see, they were contacting the agents to get more information. They were just like, I want to know what is this, I can't go and see. So enquiries were there. There were certain transactions which was in the process, was also happening at the same time. It was actually going through. Their agents who actually said they closed deals during MCO. They actually closed deals during MCO. So there was a bit of impact, but I would say that it actually picked up, and it managed to sustain for at least about 7 weeks.
Because it's mainly window shopping as opposed to some.
It's a lot of but the honest truth is that they were hugely impacted. I mean, we were panicking as well, because they were our customers, right?
Yeah.
So of course we did the necessary things about like discounts, no charging, extend the renewal. We did all that to make sure, just to keep them to sustain their business.
But did social media and like other digital platform play a role in helping these agents sell or rent out their properties during the MCO?
Yeah, it actually that was a boost suddenly, because there's a recent survey which we conducted. It showed that 79% of people who actually go into the process of buying a house, 79% of them use property portals like iProperty as a source of property information.
Right.
So this is where they could go and source, I mean, this is not today, I mean, for the past 10 years, 5 years, property portals was one. I hope you all also, look at property portals, right? As a source, as a first step,
Oh, I only use iProperty.
Yeah, I mean, compared to 20 years ago, we got to see so many units, right? 3 units, but now we can see like 20 units and choose one or two and go and visit, right? So, it was something which they have been using. They've upped their games on, on Facebook, on social medias to kind of like sell. We have certain plugins which we kind of, if you list with iProperty, it automatically does social extensions out there, to actually reach the necessary people. So they have been doing a lot of this today, and I think the leveraging on technology is more than ever now in this digital world. So that's where they're actually looking towards to.
Actually, you know what? Quick question on the searches. And since we're talking about MCO, were people searching more for landed property and places with more space because they were stuck in a house, in a condo, and they were like, oh my goodness, I wish I had a house and I had a yard or whatever it is?
Wait, hold on. Did someone leak my data, or because that is so true. I mean, I don't know how that's what actually happened. Now in August, next month we are launching our property portal demand report, which is a PDF form. But I can share with you, right? That really happened. Now every building type showed a negative. That means the demand dropped, except for one guy, terrace houses.
Right.
I was actually, I wouldn't say fantastic, but it held its ground. It held its ground. And when I saw the top 10, right, it was all outskirts. It's all the fringes, Semenyih, Kajang, Klang, it was all there. When it came to Penang, Penang was hit hard because it's a tourism state.
Yeah.
But if you pull aside the mainland, right, the Seberang Perai, right, they were strong, they were powerful, they had no issues at all, So you're right, people are starting to move, and the unit sizes are bigger as well, what they're looking for. And I think we all know it's something to do with that extra room for the Zoom call, right? The study. Because daughter has a Zoom call with school, the child got a Zoom call for violin classes. So everyone needs their Zoom calls,
Yeah.
You're right. It does show.
Interesting. It'll be like, I'm stuck in these 4 walls. I want to go. I'm gonna, after this is over, I'm gonna go get somewhere, landed where I have a garden. I can go outside,
Cabin fever, I tell you,
Yeah. But just to add to that, right? This behavior started somewhere last year, pre-MCO. We noticed when this started, when LRT and MRT stations started extending outwards, we already saw that behavior, that people were willing to stay beyond, for 2 reasons. One is connectivity is improving, number one. Number two, even last year itself, right, people were already starting to work from home. There's a lot of companies where, you can actually work from home.
Yeah.
And so they were already, this behavior started last year, and now it's even bigger now at this time.
Well, in this digital age, right, what advice would you give to real estate agents out there who have yet to go digital?
Yeah, so I think using the right technology, using the right tech can certainly help agents stay relevant, right? I know I was mentioning this now in today's digital world. They have been selling it digitally, but the real difference is the value they bring to the table. People like iProperty has been there for 10 years. They've been doing it for a while. But I feel that agents need to leverage on technology to better serve buyers, to make the home process, home buying process a bit simpler. Today, right, while transparency and accessibility to information is high, it's all-time high. We got bricks, which it's showing all the transacted data. Like 5 years ago, you want to just depend on the agent, right? And then you got all this information out there, right? But the tools available to agents to make them more effective is not there. Information is there. So example of tools are things like smart contracting, loan scoring. What we should provide all this information to the agent to help them, like leverage on this tool, because with the help of technology, right, all this data we have out there, it can be compiled and provided to them in a way that, now that you give me this information, now I can go and speak to the seller and buyer and guide them. And this was some of the thought processes we had behind our data and reporting work, which leverages on transacted data, user search data, listing data to help. And we provide this information to the agent to give them insights, to assist them on where should I go and look for properties, for inventory. How should I help them to actually negotiate price, with the seller and the buyer and all that. This is the direction I feel even us as iProperty, right? We should partner with the industry to help them leverage on technology moving forward.
Right.
But there are lots of free platforms out there right now, like social media, Facebook, Instagram, and all that. How different are those social media platforms compared to like iProperty, a digital platform specifically made for properties?
Yes, correct. So when you ask any agent, right, they will say, like, in the sense of getting leads or inquiries, right, as in a sense of a mass, like, I want a lot of it, right? So they will always start off at the top of the funnel, which is social media like Facebook, Twitter and all this. Now the thing is, they have a huge amount of traffic, right, impressions. But the thing is, as their ads appear on your feed, right, at that point of time, the intention of the person is not to buy a house. So the chances of, you get a lot of impressions, you said, oh, I received 50,000 impressions, but how many of them actually send the lead, right?
Yeah.
If they do send the lead, it was probably like, actually, it does look like a nice picture, beautiful. Let me just inquire. The intent is a bit lower compared to someone who's coming to iProperty. Coming in, my motivation is to look for a property which is 1,000 square feet in Sierra Mas, this one. So when I send a click, the agent knows. So if you ask any agent out there, right, I value the quality of the lead from iProperty, but I will still do my mass marketing in social media. But those leads, I would need to nurture. I would need to ask more questions. I need to find out. I probably might not get the right person, So if you're an agent in a distressed market, say, for example, in a market where there's so much of units, you can't be choosy, right? You can't be choosy. So they will go for social media, they will go for iProperty, they'll go for every platform. But say you're an agent, I speak to an agent who's selling a bungalow in Bukit Tungku. Hey, you want to do Facebook? He look at you and go like, excuse me? I don't have to do Facebook, okay? I just have to do one spot, and then the people will come to me. So it depends on the market.
So free social media, I suppose, is more about branding. And then when it comes to stuff like you guys, it's very much about, they're very, very focused on actually wanting to do something already. Like, it's almost close to a sale already, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, you're right. It's closer to that funnel. If they're reaching the iProperty, right, the chances of them actually contacting you and then to buy, right, is much higher, because they have actually seen the physical. Not physical. They have seen the digital representation of the property. Now I need your help to bring me to that place, and help me sell this. Why should I buy this property?
Yeah, because on social media it's like dog video, cat video. Hey, property. You're just kind of browsing, right? Yeah.
Has anyone actually bought a place just based on pictures on a platform, on a digital platform?
Wow, I don't think I've not heard of it. But with the latest technology of this virtual reality, and I think not virtual, I think metapods and all this kind of stuff, right? Which also iProperty has launched for our developer clients. We actually got feedback that people actually bought based on that virtual tour.
Really?
So, yeah. So the reason for this is, I think, because of, when it comes to a new property, like say condominium, right? You got say 200 units. There's actually not much difference from every unit. Right, every unit is about the same. Now, if you're talking about landed, sub-sale and all that, I got to be careful. This guy will do some horrible renovation. I better go and see myself. Before. No, but if developers come with a kind of like a fixed product, this is how it looks like. And we actually got feedback. I don't know the numbers, but there were people who actually bought it because it was, say for example, studio. That's it. That's a studio. It just depends which floor you want or which view you want. But the unit itself is kind of like that's the unit. Every other unit is going to be the same as this unit.
Yeah,
standard.
All right. Now, what have you learned personally about the property market after going through it this pandemic?
Yeah. So I think what happened was, in the market, right, a few months ago, people spoke about this V-shaped and U-shaped charts, like it goes down and it's supposed to go up and all that. Now, this was something we also experienced, everything went up, but all these are pent-up demands. This was the pent-up demand, which we know it's going to shoot up, but after that, it's going to plateau in a way, and in the last 10 years, trying to do data for property market, right? Experience is that it is always cyclical. And what has happened is at the moment when the pandemic hit, right, when COVID-19 hit, it hit the market when we was already getting at the bottom. So I'm not saying that, no, it has made it worse, but now it has extended the position of the 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know what? Now it's going to take longer. We thought, 2020 is the year that it's going to, because there's only one way for the clock. Now it's upwards only.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, right, drop in prices, construction output has reduced. That means they are stopping the construction. Prices are reducing. That means rental yields are going up. This is 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So that means it is on the recovery. Recovery usually takes about 5 years to 6 years. But now with this pandemic, right, the economists out there are saying N21 and all that. But I'm going to stop short from saying when. But I think it's going longer. That's my only learning. It says that, you know what? It's going to take longer for us to recover.
So it's going to be a very long 6 o'clock.
It's going to be a very long.
We're going to get stuck at 6 o'clock for quite some time.
Hey, what time on 6 o'clock still?
But what will help with moving the clock up to 7, 8, 9, 10 and back up again?
Yeah, so confidence. Consumer confidence is the one which is really going to help. Now, confidence, if you look at the charts by central bank, right, it's at the low. It's at the all-time low. Business confidence is also at the all-time low and all that, So when the market is at the peak, right, and at that time, if you look at the chart of consumer confidence, right, it's also high. So what brings up consumer confidence, right? It's things like the government, the stimulus packages, the economy, do I have a job next month, so the biggest worry is a job opportunity, which is, if right, the employment rate is at the all-time high, and all that. So these are the catalysts for this clock to move forward, So the government, of course, you can see I already seen from 2008, right? They have already learned their lesson. No, we actually didn't go through the whole subprime in US, which happened. It has slight impact, but Bank Negara has learned what to do. They've already started their policies. You notice we never got into any bubble. Everyone spoke about bubble burst, but you notice Malaysia is not going into any bubble because the government is actually controlling it in that way. It's not going to burst. And now with these incentives from, Prihatin, Penjana, and all this in place, right, to stimulate the market, these are going to help. This is definitely going to help. And then, the overnight rate, dropped. Fantastic, right? This is something which is like everyone would hope would help to stimulate the market. They have done that as well. So with this in place and developers, with the whole HOC getting developers to provide attractive packages, right? I personally am hoping that this would help turn around or quicken that process for us to move upwards towards a better position.
But what about banks? With lending being an issue and BLRs and about financing, that 20% ain't gonna cut it anymore. You need to have more of a down payment. Shouldn't they be also helping out to actually push going up to the 7 and 8 o'clock?
Yes. So I think one question a lot of people ask is like, with all this in place, right? Sorry, I'm laughing because before I can answer the question, I'm worried about answering this question. After
It's
all
okay. If really it's not compliant, we can take it out.
yeah, I mean, this is not, this is what people, because we always think that changing the world, you know, by doing all this fantastic disruption and this and all that. But end of the day, right, it doesn't really impact the people on the ground. End of the day, this person says, fantastic, I get a 30% discount. You know, the prices have dropped. But guess what? I went to the bank, my loan got rejected.
Yeah.
You know, my loan. So what the hell? You know, like I'm still not being able to buy, right? You know, and then the bank. So this is another big part where the banks have learned a long time ago. You know, many years ago, right? 10 years ago, you know, when we were at the peak, if you look at the non-performing loans by the banks at that period was a horrible, it was all-time high, you know, and it was also not good to the economy when you got a huge non-performing loan happening. Today, they have dropped it from 9% 10 years ago, right? Today, it's about 1 point something percent. Fantastic number for any country. And they have learned their lesson that, you know what, we've got to be really careful with credit, really, really careful with credit, you know. And you know what, even the third property, you know, with the new rule, the third property, you know, I can still buy it with a 90% or something like
Correct,
that.
yeah.
Extended. Yeah, they've extended. It's also another risk, you know, like the credit said, you know what, I will allow for this period, but can people sustain if they get, you know, they get more loans in the market? You know, so how much can banks do, right? End of the day is we need banks to survive. We don't want that period. Remember that period where the big banks bought over all the small banks, you know, so we had to, like, because they're all dying off and all that, right? So I think in the sense of I want them to help more, but at the same time, everyone's being cautious about credit spending, you know, like how much a credit can I give?
Which is what happened to the US subprime market, right? Because they were too freely giving away loans and people couldn't pay it back, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Now, Prem, what's your advice to people who are probably still considering whether or not they should jump into the property market at this time?
Yeah. So I think ability is one thing, like, you know, ability to buy. You know, financially, you know, you're credible. You know, fantastic. You know, I mean, in the sense of capability, you're also no problem. You know, you can actually do that. You know, the units out there. I mean, HOC is out there. You know, you got new sub sale. There are units out there which prices are dropping. You know, I can just to add one more thing, right? Sub sale, our listings are reducing because sellers are holding back. You know, sellers say, hey, you know what? If prices are down, I'm going to hold. Probably after 6 months, they know it's not going to move. They will probably open it back again, you know. But there are a lot of opportunity out there which was not there 1 year ago. You know, if you bought 1 year ago, you would have paid higher interest. If you bought 1 year ago, you would have paid 10% more. You know, so if you're buying it today, you're paying 10%, 20% less. You're paying lower interest. So yes, it is a better time. But you also got to look at the economy. Like, you know, a lot of people out there, when I ask them, the uncertainty of job is like, you know, I mean, we can't, I mean, obviously, if you ask this question to the airlines industry or the travel industry, they'll just say, oh my God, it's not even in my mind.
Yeah.
Property, you know, that's like, you know, because those industries are really impacted, right? So to me, it's like, it is a good time to buy in the sense of the value of the buck, you know, the value of the money, you know. Yes, you know, you're going to get a great unit. You're going to be able to pay for installments, you know, it's fine, you know, but please look at your economic situation. You know, the business, you know, and do you have a capability of holding a job and all that? If you do, right, if you're talking about, am I buying cheaper than the next person? Am I going to overpay? You know, next year, is it going to be cheaper? Is it going to be cheaper next year and all that? If you look at the government's plans, right, personally, I don't think so. They are doing the right steps to bring the economy up, you know. And the latest news, you know, they're saying next year is the year where they want to have a better growth in GDP.
Right.
So I think if they are doing those steps properly, we better get it now, because I don't think, we all know this is temporary, right?
Yeah.
Price reduction is always temporary. So we are at the bottom, as I mentioned. So good time to buy.